Bring Dr. Aukot. Are you satisfied with the agenda of the talks, number one? And number two, 13 years later, is it time to review the Constitution?
To be honest with you, yes, we can review the Constitution in time, even 1 year after it was promulgated. But what I will say is this. An attempt to legislate or to constitutionalize an issue has to be embedded in one principle. You have to find what is the common good for society. We make laws for society, not for individuals. And if you look at some of the agenda items there, all of a sudden we're talking about the position of a prime cabinet secretary, just because somebody is occupying that office right now. Illegally and unconstitutionally. So we want to try and rectify it. We are not looking at posterity. You know, we are talking about leader of the official opposition. Already in our constitution, and this is the ignorance I see even in the so-called parliamentarians, already in the constitution there is leadership. And I'm happy to be seated here with the eminent members of parliament, that when we went around this country in 2009, 2010 to finalize the constitution, although the debate had started much earlier from 2000 with the CKRC process that ended up at Bomas, and then of course the referendum of 2005, Kenyans said, no, we want to see a leadership that is functional within parliament. And that's why in the final constitution, which is the 2010, and I was privileged to serve in that committee of experts, we created majority leader and minority leadership, both in the National Assembly and in the Senate. Today, we are personalizing these discussions, and this is where Mheshimiwa Mahanzo is not being honest. We are personalizing this discussion because we have got people we want to accommodate within our political speak. Yeah? When people talk about leader of official opposition, I'll repeat it here. Opio Andai is the official leader of opposition in parliament, in the National Assembly. Kimani Ichung'wah is a leader of majority in parliament. That is sufficient grounds enough. You see what Mahanzo and the rest are doing. They are just not accepting that they have failed as parliamentarians on the three cardinal duties of a parliamentarian: to represent the constituency you came from, to legislate, and to oversight government. They are not doing that. They are running away from the platform they have been giving now to Bomas of Kenya, and to pretend that they want to address the problems that affect this country. For example, Trevor, Mheshimiwa Mahanzo has mentioned Article 43. Just for the avoidance of doubt, let's read Article 43. It's a very short article. And this is what it says. It's economic and social rights of a Kenyan. And it says that every person has the right. And I want Kenyans to listen carefully so that whatever discussion happens in Bomas, will we be able to achieve these economic and social rights as prescribed in the Constitution? And then a second question would be, what is government doing about achieving this economic social right? And it says this: every person has the right to the highest attainable standard of health, which includes the right to health care services, including reproductive health care. Is that a conversation at Bomas? Number two, to accessible and adequate housing, and to reasonable standards of sanitation. Is that a conversation happening in the Bomas of Kenya? They were talking about just the cost of living, which is an abstract reality. Number three, to be free from hunger. And to have adequate food of acceptable quality. Is that a conversation happening in Bomas of Kenya? No. To clean and save water in adequate quantities. To social security and to education. You know, let's not lie to Kenyans. This talks at Bomas, this so-called bipartisan. In fact, why can't we even learn from our neighbor country, South Sudan? South Sudan held what is called the national dialogue. And they addressed a number of issues. They went to Kenya. The issues that Mheshimiwa Mahanzo want to address, really, he also involved the people of Kenya. Then let's make it a national dialogue. Open it up to everyone. And let's say, okay, what is the problem with IEBC? The pretense about IEBC is the problem of individuals who never want to accept they lost an election. It's a problem of political class that wants to control that IEBC. You know, so I see nothing wrong with IEBC, to be honest with you. If there's a problem within IEBC, then we must charge, just like the conversation we had earlier. If there are cartels around electoral malpractice, let's see people being charged. But let's not pretend we want to reconsider IEBC for what? I mean, in fact, I dare propose here, Trevor, that I mean, it's just like Hanzo and the rest do not want to accept that Punguza Mizigo was probably the best proposal for this country because it was centered on the common good for this country. We are even proposing, let's make commissions part-time. Why is election in this country, Mheshimiwa Kainan, a matter of life and death? And yet we don't see people being punished. For example, in 2017, I would have wished to see Azimio side say that because of the nullification of President Uhuru Kenyatta's election by the Supreme Court, and because Justice Maraga Emeritus, CJ Emeritus Maraga said that there were irregularities and illegalities committed in the transmission of results. The question then should have been, Trevor, who committed those irregularities and illegalities? And have we seen those people being arraigned in a court of law so that then we're able to fix the problem of electoral mismanagement in this country? But now we are just making it a rhetorical discussion at Bomas of Kenya. We are not involving the people of Kenya. We think that this country is about Azimio and UDA. Open it up. Okay. In fact, under the Political Parties Act, there are about 80-something plus political parties. So open this discussion, and we'll give you suggestion on what we think is wrong for this country.
All right.